Welcome back, everybody, to the LJLOU. I'm still Initialized. I'm still joined by Nightmare and, of course, Naka, who's now a little bit more awake after a couple games of LJL action. On the Rift right now are DFM, who lost their first game after an intriguing draft. And, of course, on the other side is V3 Esports, last year's World Representatives, Spring Split runners-up, and DFM and V3 certainly have some history, do they not, Nightmare?
They do. Since like 2018 when they have promoted, V3 have, for the first year or two, kind of struggled to kind of make their mark at the top end of things. And then came 2019 summer, where they reached the finals. They did fall down to DFM, of course, but since 2020, they've had a really, since that I suppose continuing from that, with the new era of the LGL, going away from the triple round robin into the double round robin with the full 8 teams, with USG leaving, of course. We've seen V3 continually compete. They've been in now they faced off against DFM in a best of 5 in spring 2020. They faced off against them in the finals for summer 2020, where they beat them. And then coming into last split, they again met them in the finals. They're really racking up a lot of head-to-head games at this point.
Absolutely. However, Naka, I want us to talk a little bit more about this matchup in particular. DFM Game 1 wasn't that hot. What do you need them to change coming into this game versus V3 Esports?
I think that looking back at the job specifically, we touched a lot about it, like obviously in the game and obviously in our pre and post game analysis. So I won't harp too much on it, but I think definitely using a little more of the pre-built synergy between the mid jungle and the top and jungle specifically, kind of picking champs to have a little more synergy so they can actually get ahead and use the lead effectively. And I think another thing is to kind of give Bali a little more of a fighting chance, like give them a little maybe a stronger 2v2 to kind of contest and kind of push V3 around.
Fair enough. But speaking of options, what have V3 got on the table to take it to DFM, Nightmare?
So one thing that we saw in the finals last split was Mugen found ways, much like we kind of saw Hogler doing the Hatch Metro, although some of it self-inflicted, to just put the enemy jungler in the dirt and use that as a weaponized force to move around the map, create areas of pressure, get yourself neutral objectives, and particularly if you have later scaling comps which can't fight early, push them around the map where they don't have a choice in what they're really contending with. In the finals, actually, the game that DFM lost, that's exactly what happened. Mugen got ahead, DFM tried to fight when they weren't prepared to, and I think that if V3 come in with that same lethal mentality and start playing around early advantages which DFM in their confidence/arrogance might buy into, I think V3 have a path to victory.
Okay, keep our eyes out for that. And finally then, Naka, where are your eyes turning for this game? What's going to be the hot spot? Which lane, which role are we keeping our eyes on?
I mean, for me, in watching V3, it has to be Mugen. I mean, this guy is really excellent player.
Right.
I think that he can definitely take over the game if given the right tools, and so I want to see V3 kind of enable him to kind of go crazy.
All eyes on Mugen. There's certainly enough picks out there for the man to get things rolling. Of course, Steel will be tasked with handling him alongside the rest of the team. Jungle is a team sport after all. But to find out exactly how these teams actually match up, we've got to head our way over to Pick and Banface. So thank you, Naka. We'll see you after the game. Looking forward to more of your analysis.
Thank you very much.
See you very soon. But that means we have got to do ourselves a little bit of a rundown because we did DFM a disservice in the first game by not running down Ebby, Steel, Aria, Utapon, and of course Gang in the support role over on the blue side.
And we've not done anything of the like of V3 because it's their first game, of course. And who is they going to be? It's going to be Cog in the top lane, Mugen, as we talked quite a lot about in that pre-game, then Ace, Hollow, and Rhino rounding out their 5-man squad.
Slight spectator bug there, but it's fine. The picks and bans, or specifically the bans, are back out again. Akali off the table, rightly so. She's absolutely very strong right now, and both Ebby and Arya are excellent Akali players. But it's the set, it's the Lulu that DFM have gotten rid of this time around. They don't want to pick up the Lulu, and they certainly don't want to give that over to V3. I imagine that being quite up the likes of Ace's play style wheelhouse.
So I guess an interesting thing for me is that V3 are banning away the likes of the Karma, right? I know that Gang's played it. I know that's a very strong 2v2 champion. But often, when we've had the Arya versus Ace matchup, the team with Ace on it, with V3, or whether that be against CJ from 2020 or from DFM in this last split, has been, let's try and have as strong and non-interactive lane in the mid lane as possible. Stuff like the Karma or something like a set mid, something which is hard to push out but has a value outside of just getting high CS scores and kill participation in the game on something like a mage. It's going to be the Nocturne first lock-in for DFM. Steel is a notable Nocturne player, and I'm sure that it can be flexed between the solo lanes as well.
Absolutely, but it does mean that Gwen's got through pick and ban and through first pick. DFM clearly much priority. They clearly want the Nocturne, and in fairness, you kind of understand potentially reasons why. It's a very different play style of champion, but it does highlight to me that DFM have got something in mind. They want to play a particular way with Nocturne, especially if they're prioritizing it so hard for first pick. But it's looking like Reiner is going to get a hold of his infamous Thresh in response. It is one of his absolute best champions, and it's certainly a way to empower Hollow on a number of picks, up to and including things like Aphelios, right?
Absolutely, because one of the other things which happened with V3 in the last playoffs wasn't just that they made it through the lower bracket, that they kind of punched above their regular season weight. They went against Sengoku and started slaughtering their bot lane when Gango and Enzi had been doing so well in that split as well. They played against the Aphelios Thresh. They punished them. They understand how to play to win conditions, and that's honestly how V3 won in summer 2020. They understood their way across their team comps better than other people. With the Thresh, one of Reiner's signature picks, they have a way to play around that again.
Adding in a little bit more pick, a little bit more of that fluidity in playstyle options with the Lee Sin as well. Both Thresh and Lee Sin known for their playmaking options and could go into a number of roles. Of course, Muujin, historically a very famous Lee Sin player, but these days seen more in the solo lanes, and I'm sure Cog would happily pilot that option.
Yeah. I know it's getting a little bit late in the day for me now. I've been like on this stream for 7.5 hours.
Quite a while.
I thought you were talking about Thresh flexes, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Why is Muujin a notable Thresh player in the jungle?
No, I was talking about Lee Sin. The response from DFM is the Rumble Nocturne plus the Ezreal again for Utapon. A lot of semi-global, a lot of long-range options here. Paranoia plus Equalizer is a pretty powerful combo, assuming you can keep people on the red carpet.
But, and one of the things about having something like an Equalizer is that there is only one lantern to take you off of it. If you put the Equalizer between the AD carry and the Thresh, all it's going to do is drag you to a different point on that carpet. It doesn't necessarily matter. Again, much like Axe's earlier, I don't think locking in the Rumble Nocturne immediately is necessarily the play. I think locking in the Nocturne first on blue side, I think that's fine. It's better on blue side because you can see the Thresh locked in, you can see the Lee Sin locked in early, and then you think, okay, right, we can nab the Ezreal for ourselves. That's one of the most mobile AD carries that does do well against this combo out of the pool. So then the question is, V3, what do you have in terms of other self-peel, mobile, defensible AD carries that can survive this combo?
Varus taken off the table by DFM here. They're continuing to squeeze that AD carry pool, whereas V3 seem to be wanting to take away some of Gang's engage options. Of course, as it stands, likely it's Arya that has got the opportunity here for the counter pick. There's still a little bit of flexibility with Rumble and Nocturne, but would be relatively unusual to see those end up in mid lane.
The thing is, right, V3 have already locked in the Gnar. You know what's going top lane.
Of course, and that's great for DFM. Like, the Nocturne Gnar matchup is pretty Nocturne favoured as far as the international consensus is.
I mean, but what that means is that at this point, V3 have no incentive to show mid. They can show their AD carry. I guess maybe they think we want to lock... I mean, you kind of understand the kind of AD carry that you want to go for already at this point. Question is, what does Hollow have in the wheelhouse? Are you going to go for something like, I don't know, something like, of course, he played stuff like the Samira. Aphelios is not the pick I would have said. It is a difficult lane to pull off against that combo. The 2v2, I'm sure, is fine, but in team fights, there's a lot of treacherous terrain you have to avoid.
Absolutely. At least it is with the Thresh, though, so it does make Aphelios more viable. But help is not making it easy. It's just making it playable with a lot of asterisks attached to the end of that statement. DFM, though, now having seen the Aphelios, debating going for Twisted Fate Arya to match up with the likes of the Nocturne to really pressure side lanes.
So a fun thing about Arya's TF is that when he was on CGA in 2020, in the summer split, he didn't get to play this pick at all, and yet it was banned against him, because of course it's only in that mid lane position, 50% of all of his team's games. He only played, I think it was maybe 1 or 2 games of it in spring, and the first one was against Rascal Jester in that game where he did get solo kill in lane. It was a bit awkward, but after that point, he did have a lot of pressure on the map. Have to see what he does now with a double global composition with that long-range follow-up of the Equalizer 2, and of course the ARC 2-shot barrage. DFM have lots of ways to pile onto a singular target. With the Braum involved, they can hold down the bot lane, hold down the fort, and then start moving their global pieces around that.
So now to see whether that's going to be a Lee Sin for Ace, which in my mind would be a little more unlikely, even if he is quite an accomplished melee player, or whether it's going towards Muujin in the jungle. The hover of the Orianna suggests that V3 are looking to give Muujin one of his old school favourites.
Oh, they will. So, Lee Sin, obviously a very strong solo lane pick, and we saw Apperman pop off on that earlier, right? But when you're in the LJL, sometimes you just got to give in to the players and their favourites and their personalities and all this other stuff. It is going to be Muujin going back to the Lee Sin, and it's going to be, it looks like it will be that Orianna locked in.
Looks like still hovering it, still waiting for it, and they're just hanging around. And that means V3, they've got themselves the makings of a very strong teamfight comp. It's very spring. It's pretty standard. You can play front to back from that, with the addition of some playmaking from the likes of the Gnar and the Lee Sin. But on the other side, DFM, they've got so many ways to snowball those side lanes.
Well, they do, and now the question is, DFM, you have played around the TF a bit, never really been much of a Galio kind of team. Even with Saros and the roster, they didn't really end up playing that. How practiced are you at this style? Because DFM, they really do want to use this next split to start building up towards that peak. They need to start trying some different things, and most importantly, they need to really start impressing us. One of the things about MSI is that they said themselves, at least Coach Yang did when they came back, our style works internationally. We're confident in our style now. This is a little bit different from that. They are starting to move around some of their pressure points and relying a little bit more on the champion pool of Gang, as opposed to Kazu, who could only play about 4 or 5 champions. Question is, with those moving pieces, with Kazu out of the lineup, with that synergy, as we said, kind of maybe coming back between Utapon and Gang, but maybe a little less on the team-wide shot-calling sense now that Coach is no longer a voice in their ears on the Rift, a lot of things to track, a lot of trajectories to hang out, and because, of course, their first game was not particularly successful. Lots of questions now being asked of this super team of DFM.
Yeah, another new look, another new game. I don't hate it, especially not in week 1. I don't mind DFM trying to branch out a little bit. In fact, I could see this being quite a cool look, but V3 have gone pure comfort. Cog's Gnar did absolutely unreal things towards the end of last split. Muujin, to anybody who's followed him since his Flash Wolves day, was really something else. It feels like every Flash Wolves jungler is a killer Lee Sin, going back to the days of Karsa. Of course, we still rep our friend Boogie over in the LLA.
Absolutely, we do.
And of course, Lee Sin plus Orianna, hell of a combo. Hollow and on this Aphelios with the Thresh. You can see how this team works. If it hits about 30 minutes and they get to team fight, it could get real scary for DFM if they haven't blown a lead, or they don't get to Lub Aphelios really quickly in a team fight.
And it's really important you mention, Cog's Gnar, because I know we were talking about Kanatu being maybe the player that could contend with Ebby on the top side of the map. I would say that also Cog's up there. It's kind of, and maybe Ray Farkey, after he's revived a bit, going back towards stuff like the Jace instead of being stuck on Gragas and Renact and duty, could be up in that conversation as well. But it's not as barren a top lane pool as we've potentially seen from the LJL before.
Absolutely not. We've got ourselves a rookie or two turning up and looking pretty spicy. We've got some of the veterans standing up and being counted, but
I've just realised our names are actually the opposite.
I know, it's fine. I'm actually Nymera now.
That's how it works. That's how Mafia
I'm a
works.
degenerate Ari main.
Oh, yeah.
I've
Crazy.
been on Summoning Insight and I'm still insufferably smug about it.
I mean, I think that's what caused me to be insufferably. It's changed me. It's a formative experience.
Oh, it explains so much. Right, we're on to the Rift. We'll move on.
Yeah, follow that.
I don't really want to. I want to leave it where it was. Thank you very much.
Oh, V3. It feels so strange.
Not
seeing
being
them in
green.
orange.
I know.
Yeah.
It's really
Obviously
weirding me out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, those of you will probably have noticed, if you have watched our streams before and watched the, also noticed a new V3 coming into Worlds from 2020, it used to be green. It used to be very different.
I like it.
Very different kind of branding.
It's a nice branding. I like the rebrand.
I mean, with the rebrand, it is a lot more kind of draconic imagery, because things of V3 was sponsored by a tech school, a high school, so it's a lot more kind of geometric, that old logo. It is going to be quite strange getting used to it though. Like, I do kind of miss it because very few teams pull off green well.
True, but what I will say is we now have got us like a little chromatic scale between Hawks in yellow towards Sengoku in red. It's great.
Cool.
Come on, I mean we did have a traffic light before.
Fair, yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, cool.
Trying to offer some...
No, there's no green light. No one can engage ever. There's no green team anymore.
Explains why some of the earlier games were so slow.
They were, torturous.
I will say the Birdie Core games were hella fun though.
That being said, even though we talked about the green light, the most painful gaming experience I've had in terms of casting was freaking Sengoku versus V3
yes!
in spring 2020.
Man, there's a throwback.
I could say go find that game, but this is one of the few times I'll say,
do it.
Actually,
Stay
don't
away.
do that. As much as we appreciate the views, that one's not worth it.
Look,
it's 57 minutes of pure hellish, non-engaging nightmare.
Just wait till the last few minutes where Yutama actually turns on and Nightmare breaks down. It's largely entertaining. And I enjoy. Yeah, it is actually
lovely.
Yes, it was in my. I feed on the tears.
That's my older brother, everyone.
Yeah.
In case you're wondering what it was like growing up with Sam as a brother, there you go.
Yeah, pretty much. I was great, thank you. Don't stay silent. Don't be that way. He doesn't know what he was missing.
Right. Missing skill shots now, at least. That's what I do.
True.
That's the next stage of my life.
You were never very charming.
Wow! Oof.
Do you see how that was like a really nice sort of multi-layered?
So this is why you play. This is why you play Evelyn, to have at least a charm that is point and click, so you don't even have to have any skill for it.
Well, you do actually have to proc the charm once it's landed.
Okay, maybe that's the failing point.
But I do it with hate.
Wow.
Hate by that was. I'm setting myself up to be some like serious evil villain vibe. I promise I'm actually relatively chill.
I mean, honestly, speaking of the evil villain, kind of back towards LJL narratives. I remember last year in summer, particularly when DFM had won spring, but we knew that they'd gone international for 2 years in a row at that point, and we'd kind of seen the peak of that former DFM roster. We're like, we don't know whether they're the heroes or the villains of the LJL, because but they require that respect. They require one of those mantles, and they're going to try and make a villain out of Cog and send him to the grave.
Mujin was around, but so is Arya. That makes this a little bit tricky, but DFM disengage. Ebi took a tower shot or two there, but it's still going to be Cog backing out, and we'll have to teleport back in to secure this wave. You can see Steel just going to roam back down and get a hold of that scuttle. Did skip clearing Wolves and Gromp to make that play happen.
Doesn't take a genius to figure out what DFM have been practicing in scrims in the last week. Those top lane early moves at level 4 from mid lane.
Look at the playbook. Every page just says dive top.
Yes. Wait, what do you mean? What does this say? Evid? No, that's just dive upside down. For those
Pots.
of you...
Why are they cooking? They've just got all these pots. It's just top, but backwards. So when they mirror the matchup.
Yeah. Gosh, Hook dodged away from Villiard's spawn. Funny story about that, because we do have it's a little bit of a slower pace right now. We will get back towards slightly more gameplay things. The very first VCS English stream which I watched, and of course we're big fans of their broadcast out there. They taught us how to do it on the LJL. We watched that. That's effectively what the VCS taught us to do. Just dive top, or in this case, Evid.
Evid, indeed. Ebi, D, pressing D to use teleport to turn back into the lane. That's what it is. See, it was all.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Suddenly, I feel like we're on.
Can we get an emote called EBD that's just like diving top?
That is getting painfully close to quite terms of service breaking emotes.
Yeah, probably is actually.
Not gonna go for that.
I hadn't really considered the statement until now, and I understand why that might be concerning. Instead, I retract my comment. For as amusing as it is in terms of being dive backwards, it's also very. Yeah, you could turn that into a double entendre a little too easy, and we'll instead see an attempted dive again.
The double dive.
The double dive. Never mind anything else. Cog left under tower. Flame roasted for first blood. That was clean.
Doesn't even flash. Knows he's dead. Dead to rights. The flash would have come in from someone. But what this has been traded for, as the Observer so helpfully pans over to, is 3 different wards across DFM's bot side. One thing that we said about the Rascal Jester game for DFM is like, okay, yes, you have some early plans, but once the once Steel got tracked a lot in that Volibear game, DFM didn't really know where it was safe to stand on the map. We saw that with their bot lane getting dove, and again, that could have been a process here, although Steel is on the bot side. Instead, Mugen is going to go clear out some of the enemy jungle instead. But DFM have now got to contend with their jungler being completely warded out, and there aren't any secretive plays they can pull off.
No, there are not, but at least you can see while there's a slight CS lead for Hollow and Reiner, Utapon and Gang have evaded being dove there. Mugen didn't feel comfortable doing it, partly because, of course, TF was keeping Ace accountable, not allowing an easy roam out, and also Steel on the reset just says, I'm going straight to Krug, straight up the bot lane, just in case there's a dive incoming so I can be around. Does come in trade for what I thought would have been a dragon, but Mugen decides it's not safe enough and pulls off that.
So what we have now, though, is a really important part of the game, because you see Arya has Spellbook, and they've gone for the Ignite. They've teleported back into lane, achieved priority. They have themselves the ultimate. You have the Paranoia too. You have a Paranoia Destiny Gate Ignite play to play around. That is an almost certain kill. What is V3 going to do in regards to that? They kind of have to make sure that they're set for a cross map or a response where DFM could be landing that hammer blow. But DFM, they have themselves the proactive tools for the next minute or two.
Absolutely, and I suspect Cog's Destiny will be an absolute nightmare if DFM have anything to do with it. And you can see Arya just continuing to tease, to trend towards the top side of the map, and very swiftly, V3 send up support in the form of Mugen and Reiner, who are both roaming up on the mini-map, as you can see, just aware that DFM could think about pulling the trigger. Level 6 now for Steel as well, so it's an equalizer to add a little bit of fire and fury to the top side dive, should they choose to make it.
Kind of a strange way to, strange terminology, roaming up to top lane, because the Romans never really went north. That's why Hadrian's Wall's a thing. Never roaming up north. That bad, huh? Look, okay, I went to a museum about Romans the other day. It's on my mind.
I was trying to make a Nero play as a result. I was like, it's just not going to happen.
Oh no, what?
The Great Fire of Roman. It's my equalizer. That's what it is.
I was about to say, it's like Nero playing the fiddle as Rome's equalizer.
Oh no.
That's exactly what happened. It wasn't the Goths and Visigoths. It was just Rumble back in antiquity.
Oh man, the Rumble in the jungle. It was all a WWE time travel shenanigans. How did we end up here? We could have been in such a normal position. Instead, this is the conversation we have.
Absolutely not. We still have Kokog's flash get forced away. I mean,
yeah.
Kokog's now obviously very powerful in the team fights, but keeping even in CS. Even though they have lost that first death and been forced to flash away. Ebi's fairly happy with proceedings, though. The question is, with so many Nocturne games and so many Nocturne teams, you kind of see the Nocturne picked for, 10 minutes of pressure, and then it kind of falls apart at that point, because you're not a frontliner, you're not particularly tanky, and you can get disengaged if there is stuff like the Lantern, like the Mega Nut, like the Lee Sin kick. Now DFM have to show me, particularly, because again, we hold them to our higher standard, because this is literally the greatest team you could bring out of this region. What can you do to transfer this into a powerful mid-game with, again, these semi-globals coming down? We've had this Paranoia and the Destiny Gate hanging over this game for a little while now. Where's the play coming?
V3 looked to get something gone bot, but there was a control wall in the way. Instead, Arya looked to roam down. That was a very awkward bit of phrasing, but out of danger goes Utapon. Still around, and could still be an option for a Desi here from Mario, who's not pulled the trigger on that yet. We'll look to do it. The retreat pings come out already, and you can see Mugen racing towards to try and stop this option. There's the Destiny, but it's a ward up into a kick that forces the cancel on that, so it'll be 2 ult burn just for a very nice interrupt.
I'm choking harder than DFM did versus Rascal Jester.
That was nicely recovered from you coughing out over here.
So that's what we do when the tea goes down the wrong way.
That's the tea.
Okay, but this is actually much more serious for DFM than I'm making a mockery of it, right? Because DFM have for the longest time now, the last couple of minutes, been sat there with all the cards they could play in TF's and the Nocturne's hands, and they fumble it. The cards fall to the floor. It's a kick away out of the ultimate, out of the teleport. DFM had a play on the bot side ready, and they fumble it.
Unfortunate stuff. That's the Glacial Fissure down on the Destiny Gate down. First one not getting anywhere. Yes, it's still a fairly decent lead to DFM. primarily, honestly, because Ebby managed to get a number of plates and force Cog to seed a wave up there, which definitely sucked. Of course, TF also just prints money because he has some very slight hands going on there.
Sounds like it's illegal, Sam.
He's literally like a grifter and a con man. That's what he does.
They'll let anyone into the League of Legends nowadays.
The League of Legends isn't even a thing anymore. They removed that like 5 years ago.
What are you talking about? Shame on Riot. Get these criminals
out of the Institute of War. Where's Visaria Coleman here? There's a reference to old lore that's been dead a very long time. Anyway, let's perhaps move our way on.
It's been a long day, viewers. It's been a long day.
Nightmare has stepped in to produce today as well as doing some analysis work and, of course, now colour casting. Effectively, it means he's been here all day long, and he's getting a little bit delirious.
No. Obviously, like, we have brought on a lot of different people to our team, both in the casting role, which you see is on screen, and in the back room as well. Sadly, producer that was going to come in here, Ibram, had a bit of an accident, so safe recovery to them. Really wishing you the best of recoveries. I think they are still in the Discord somewhere, just not able to sit and look at TV screen for the longest period of time. Which means that I've been doing that for the last 8 hours instead. But it's been a really good first week of League of Legends, and DFM, of course, have been struggling. That opens up the split so much for us. All of our notes, all of our preparation about this is a DFM victory lap. This is us judging them to a higher standard, saying it's not about winning, it's about how hard they win. Well, they're not getting it easy right now.
Okay, Mugen and Steel about to spot each other over the blast cone and have a bit of a back and forth, and neither will take it. Ebby has roamed down, having got the shove in on Cog. Meganar is available, will be timing out soon, and teleports on both top laners mean there's drama available, particularly considering the Infernal Drake has spawned and both teams could look for it. Instead, we'll see the Herald spawned in bot lane by Steel, and they'll look to get a shove in here, and actually, with Arya now having Destiny up, this could be a bit of an aggressive shove in from DFM. I'm not sure whether V3 necessarily wants to defend this.
They don't have mid-pro. That's the eye hit already. Honestly, with this wave having to be cleared out, they're having to use both of these ultimates just to stop V3 from hitting the eye again and stopping the charge completely.
They do at least get the charge, but you're right, it comes at a bit of a cost. Instead, Ari will look to cross-map because of how many resources that V3 put in bot. Paranoia plus the Destiny. I said it would be a Nightmare fate, and that's exactly what Cog gets, courtesy of the Nightmare and the Man of the Cards.
Okay, so both of the big ultimates used on the top side, a couple of big ultimates used on the bottom side, but DFM do win briefly on both sides of the map. Ace takes a plate in the mid lane, pushes a wave in, at least Steel is there to collect it, but DFM get themselves a bit of gold, get themselves on the board, get themselves 1,500 gold in the lead, plus an extra couple of players on the top side. On the cost of that, though, it is going to be 2 Dragons to V3. It's a Mountain Rift against the likes of your Nocturne, against the Rumble. If you get up to a Mountain Soul, it really hurts these champions.
Oh, lucky roll for V3. They'll be feeling pretty helpful, and Twisted Fate will be cursing his luck, that's for sure. Does come at the cost of first tower, and all plates going towards Nocturne now, who is now a very big boy. Looking pretty scary, and that's what DFM have done. They've chosen to trade gold for dragons. And it's a choice they've made a number of times in the past and made it work. But it does mean if these next couple dragons get fumbled, V3's still in with a win condition. We already said they've got some great options in 5v5s.
Yeah, but while this is happening, though, Hollow has quietly, or maybe slightly louder than that, because there have been the camera has panned down here a fair bit, gotten up to 300 to 400 gold lead over Utpon. Now, that's not going to matter when Utpon gets up to a 2-item lead. 2-item spike, rather, because that amount of damage is just absurd from the Ezreal at this point. Divine Sunderer, Ramana, both incredibly strong items. If you can build them on a champion, you probably are going to. On the other side, though, Hollow on the Aphelios past the 3 to 4 item mark. If you dive in and you have a Thrash Lantern, and you have yourself a Safeguard, and an Orianna Shield, and a Mountain Soul, this Aphelios is set to turn and burn through DFM.
Keep your eyes on Hollow then, whose damage will be anything but empty. Of course, got to keep our eyes on the slew of notifications that popped across your screen moments ago. A lot of mythic items now complete. Gore Drinker, Ludens, Kraken Slayer, all done for the mid through bot laners of V3. On the other side for DFM, you can see solo laners and, of course, Utapon as well. Got himself a Divine Sunderer and the likes complete in terms of mythics. And they'll move over towards this Herald and look to take their second one of those of the game and continue their pressure towards towers that DFM have continued to prioritise in this game.
For sure. So, we do have ultimates coming up again, but the map is being spread out wide. So, I guess, For me, I have my own expectations of this game, and like we said, we've really wanted DFM to show us up. What are you looking for from DFM this game? Because again, this is the team we expect to win this split. This is such a strong team, the super team. They have to give ourselves a big fight.
Wait, did V3 steal away the Herald? They must have done. Instead, in goes Ebby. Massive flay back. They continue to try and trade. That's a shockwave onto 2, but it's too late. The Everfrost claims a failure. They're going to continue showing. Mojin, rounds, stunned in place, goes down to Ebby. It's a 2 for none. Cog also desperately low. And DFM get 2 in the mid lane. Nice trade for the Herald going down.
Okay, fair stuff. The ultimates aren't used this time to go out to the side lane. They're used to collapse onto the central part of it as V3 drop the second Herald spawn. This now opens up DFM with a chance to maybe go towards the mid lane outer turret themselves, but with the Mega Nod coming into full fruition from Cog, less of an opportunity. DFM take the kills, they take the staunching of the mid lane pressure from V3 that they put out, and they'll walk away fairly happy with that. Going into the replay, as you can see, this Aphelios just has nowhere to go. He does get tagged eventually with
that 3-man knocker.
Yeah, Gang comes in with a huge Braum ultimate. We've missed this player, man. I've really missed Gang. It's not his Rakan just yet. We saw the owner earlier, but even on Braum, he makes it look very fancy. Comes out with a 1 fight, but that equalizer in the first play drops it right on top of the lantern, and Aphelios is like, not sure I want to stand there.
Yeah, exactly. And you said that was what the Rumble could do. DFM pull it off. It might not be a strict team fight comp in the same way, but DFM still looking to pilot and get the picks they needed.
My saddest thing about this is that my favorite, and I make no mistakes about this is my absolute favorite composition in League of Legends, just because of name alone, came from Sengoku in spring 2020, where they played the Rumble and the Braum, but it was with another champion in particular. And I would allow you to take this name and use it for yourselves. It is Kiana Jones and the Carpets of Doom. You put down the Equalizer, you put down the Glacial Fissure, and suddenly you've got like the red carpet and the blue carpet, and then you've got the Explorer shoving them into it willy-nilly. It's a fantastic combo, and it does lead to this really treacherous terrain that we can see. Of course, we don't need the Assassination. The gold card and the globals are more than important enough for DFM's liking this game, but having the extra terrain, particularly against the immobile carries of the Orianna and the Aphelios, is so important in these mid to late game team fights.
Problem is DFM burn a fair amount there to get the kills in mid lane, and they might now be in a tricky position to come and contest for this dragon, which is spawning in 15 seconds, and V3 have already littered the place with wards.
They have, so they get to set up the objective first. They get to control when they're hitting the objective, and that potentially means they can choose to play around their own Mega Nut bar. You can see that teleports are available for both top laners. Paranoia is too, so there's the potential of the Nocturne ulti then teleport. Actually, Nocturne's just heading down themselves. However, V3 seem to have claimed their prize already. They take themselves Soul Point. Like we said, Mountain Soul, very important for this one, and the Paranoia is going very deep.
Oh my days, they're going right on. They know where they all are because of the Destiny. That's the power of that combo. But Ebby's in a 1v2. They're still trading on the other side of the map. It's a split fight. Ebby manages to escape for now. Throws out the Duskbringer, staying alive as long as they can. Ace teleported in, only to go down. It'll be Steel that gets that kill. Brilliant shield to keep Steel alive. Gold card goes on to Cog, who's hopped across the wall, and DFM come out with a one-man advantage for now. But that got a little dicey. Deep dive from DFM.
What a weird fight. You see Ebby going onto one side of the fight with the Paranoia, and then the Destiny Gate goes completely the other way. Super risky from DFM. They walk away with a single kill, which is actually quite a low payoff for the amount of tools that they use there. They still get it, though. It means that they will force, of course, Ace not to be on the map, not wave clearing for the next minute, as he spent that in the Death Chamber. But DFM... bit risky there, buddy.
And 1 kill for Mountain Soul Point is not the greatest space. And of course, I know it was difficult to walk in there because Thresh and Orianna and Sentinel turrets make walking in, particularly for still trying to contest that dragon. Sorry, not Baron quite yet. Very challenging. But now, Steel and Gang trying to get towards his top lane because they smell a dive coming on, and Mujin is here and ready to play.
They are so. We have a Braum, we have a Rumble, but they're not there in time.
That's a lot of damage, and it's just a CC chain. The teleports are being channeled, though, and DFM going to continue to try and fight this one at Abbey. Spell shield's way best he can, but now Ryan has gone very deep. The Equalizer is good, keeps Ryan in a difficult position. That's a Blast Wave. Fantastic Shockwave to disengage. DFM, though, have got a Blast Cone. Maybe they think about it. They're certainly waiting. They go straight over, and here we go. Flash for the Q, but Kogok flashes to avoid the winner's bite in turn. Now Utapon stepping forward alongside Ebby and Braum from Gang. That'll be a fear that procs onto Reiner. He goes down. Ebby's got the paranoia back up, still continue to chase. He's going to try and go after Ace under the tower. Can't quite get it for the true shot. Barrage makes it a double for Utapon. But wait, look who's here now. Muujin and Hollow with full HP bars, and there's no one else around yet. Look for Arya. Where is he? He's not here yet. Steel's going to try and come around. But the flash gets Muujin 2 on the top side. Now it's a 3v3, and Arya's gone in too deep, too far. The Everfrost not bad, but no one else is alive. Steel needs to keep burning down, but he overheats and he can't keep going. Hollow gets more, and it's Unipon left alone. Muujin keeps his life alive. I thought he might be able to do that, but the core drink is on cooldown. And V3 from being 5 for 0 in kills get their own 5 kills and are back in the game, teleporting after Utapon. I don't think he'll even have a chance to get out here. Kogok's going to hop the wall and he'll spot Utapon. Who's got Flash. He has got a Stride Breaker, just shuts him down as well. Baron's alive.
The first half of that fight, and this is an act in 3 parts, so oh my gosh, that's going to be a hell of a replay. Started off with the magic that we know DFM can produce, but they overstep, they overstay, they don't end up finishing off the Aphelios. And what did we say? If Aphelios gets into the game and gets to regen, gets to disengage, they are the master of these fights. That's exactly what happens. Baron goes down, V3 get themselves on the board in magical fashion.
And you see a little bit of the mastery of DFM, but it's turned around by some fantastic plays from V3 as well, who just punished DFM, feeling it a bit, and this starts with a fantastic dive onto Arya.
So, we know that Rumble and Braum are on the top side of the map, but they're just not nearly close enough. Arya does have the flash at this point, doesn't choose to use it, locked up in time, and we already see here, that's already the equalizer used. Big team fight opportunity tool, rather, not used from, not available from DFM. The reason they're taking this is precisely because the Aphelios is not there, but they don't have a way to keep Aphelios out of the fight for long enough. Does end up turning up, and now Reiner lands a hook.
He's in a spot of bother. He's going to get landed in as well, but you can see DFM now going to try and catch Ace out on the other side while the catch is going on for their top laner, and Ebby's gotten out alive while Steel claims Ace's life for the 3rd time this game. Been a bit of a rough one. I'll give him credit for that disengaged shockwave, but a lot of the other ones not really hit the mark.
No, and since he doesn't have the flash this time either, that's been used previously in the game, Utapon lands another kill. Well, another kill assist, rather. That one actually went over to Steel with that true shot barrage onto that Orianna. The sniper is back. Utapon's Ezreal not trying to, well, definitely not out of the conversation here in the Battle of the AD Carries. And with that, Steel claims his 500th kill in the LJL.
Congratulations over to him. What a kill it was too. Nicely set up for DFM, who will manage to get these picks. Problem is, Ace will still be up in time for this dragon, and we've got Mountain Soul on the world as Utapon shows Steel up and gets himself up to that 1k mark.
Here you go. He actually has himself a killer kill. It's like the kilo kill. The 1,000 prefix out on there. That one's a bit of a mouthful.
See whether he continue to do his best in this game. For sure, it's hard to get towards that amount with the lower amount of games in the LJL. Still very well done for him. But V3 have caught in the river. It's Mountain Soul Point. Ace is back on the map. So that pick, maybe just a little too early, especially now. Arya's on one side, but they need this fight to go well. It's going to come down to a smite fight. Both teams here. Speed Shrine is DFM's, but look at the dragon. It's down to 2k. Steel stepping forward, but it's too late. Mountain's got it. That's Mountain Soul. That's such a disaster for Night Harvester Rumble. But already Aphelios is dead, and DFM might be able to get a lot off the back end of this fight. They're continuing to run after Arya. Stuns one and gets that kill as Utapon gets his 1,001st kill in the game. And that'll be a massive 4-for-1 in favor of DFM. They've lost Soul, and they lost Baron off that last play because that's what happened during the replay, so they can't get that. So it's a good fight, but what cost?
At what cost? At least it's not a Baron going to DFM. As we said, that was on V3. In fact, you can see it on the night. You can see it on Kogok at this point. I have to say, even though V3 horrendously lose that fight, it is an absolute shutout. Getting that Mountain Soul is going to be pivotal in carrying on this game. You can see a gold card doesn't even break the Mountain Shield. It is a big combo from DFM onto it, and very luckily for DFM, they get the exhaust onto Muujin as he does get the gets the kick through.
Taste that gold drinker.
Gosh, yeah, that Goldrinker does so much. And this is the thing. Next time, that's going to have the Mountain Soul on top of it. It did there, of course. But this is going to have a reset. And this Soul is going to be so hard for DFM to cut through with this team comp. As he said, with the Night Harvester Rumble, you run out of damage because it just goes straight into their Mountain Shield.
And that has been the risk that DFM have taken this game, and it's come back to bite them. They let the Dragon stack, and this is, unfortunately, their penance. And V3, we said, the later this game gets, the better their team comp looks. Aphelios is at 2 items. This Lee Sin is, getting pretty scary with the Goredrinker and Asterix and a Mountain Soul on top of that. That's so much healing, so much shielding. And he was already showing a fair amount of mastery in that top lane fight and the like. So that's getting scarier and scarier. You can see Frozen Heart on its way for Ezreal to try and survive some of all that threat, but it's getting difficult for DFM. They chose to play for side lanes, they chose to play for gold, and they've only had one neutral objective this whole game, the first Herald.
Exactly.
Every other one has gone V3's way.
And honestly, what DFM have been doing more is actually using the globals to commit to the central part of the map. Go towards mid, push outwards, get pressure from the Nocturne winning against the Gnar, and then, of course, the huge amount of wave clear that TF can have too, and then just go pile on mid. That's where they found that really big fight in the start of it, but it didn't lead to the mid lane outer turret falling. It didn't allow them to ingress their vision into V3's jungle. It has stalled out, and the objectives then went over to V3 because they did have a platform of vision, of pressure to get towards that Dragon Pit, get themselves a Baron as well off the one big fight that they took. DFM now, even with a 3.5k gold lead, at 26 to 27 minutes in, that's not really enough for my liking when you're staring down, again, that unseen amount of gold value that Dragon Soul's giving them.
Credit to V3 for hanging on in there. You can see the AI bot absolutely taking us on a roller coaster because DFM were in with a serious advantage. Then the Baron goes down, then the Soul goes down, but DFM get the great fight. It's back to near even at this point because DFM still have ways to play this game. They can play for the picks on the sideline. Like Cog here is dead to rights.
That's what we have to say. There's no teleports coming in. That's the paranoia.
There's paranoia into the Everfrost, into a very dead Gnar. Now they can try and shove up and get some turret pressure in this side lane. And that's what DFM can do even versus the Mountain Soul. They've got enough CC, they've got enough damage that against single targets, it's not going to be enough.
Okay, so DFM find themselves a micro advantage. Where does this lead? Can they find, again, one of these magical DFM team fights where they pull off an arm when you give them a finger to pull? DFM, they're going to reset off of this. They don't find anything from it. They do still have themselves the Destiny Gate. They have the second of their globals available to them. They're not out of this game just yet.
They are not, and it is a better game from DFM. Let's give all credit. There was some good plays early, but this is not complete wipeout. We've got to give serious credit over to V3 for staying in it. They made a good proactive play onto Arya that led to them getting a few kills back. They managed to play the map well enough and the resets well enough to set up for Dragons and get there before DFM were willing to commit, and they've held on to this mid-tier 1 that's been such a thorn in DFM's side.
Absolutely. Have to say, at this point, knowing that the Mountain Soul's there, you're really annoyed now as the Ezreal because, again, the Frozen Heart has been so... it's the build of the month that you didn't go for the Cyrildas third. With the Cyrildas, you'd at least be able to, again, as one of the two AD threats, to be better against this Mountain Soul, because you need the damage to fight in this late game now.
And V3 are feeling real happy. It might only be 2 items on Hollow, but all of those additional stats get scary. It's a shockwave onto Utapon. The Ace is taken so low in the back end, and look how much steel is burning down. Cog goes golden, and goes mega while he's golden. That's a big deal. The Baron is secured by V3. They've got flashes, and they're looking low. They're going to get their way out, and DFM can't follow. V3 get out, don't even lose Ace. And that is the power of the Soul, that is the power of Stopwatch, that is the power of keeping your summoners available.
It absolutely is. And V3, the escape artists at the end of that. We saw the huge amount of damage coming onto Ace, even though it was traded for the Shockwave onto the Ezreal. Ezreal is tanky enough, like ironically with that item I was just kind of talking down on in the Frozen Heart, that is the bonus you get of it. On the other side though, Utapon and crew don't have the damage to cut through this Mountain Soul. Gonna go back to that replay. We can see that DFM do arrive to the objective in time. They don't have the paranoia though to follow up with the Nocturne early enough into this fight. The Equalizer is okay, but it's not actually tagging Hollow. Hollow is continually stacking up chakras, putting down turrets, and most importantly, has themselves a flash. The paranoia only becomes available at that very moment, and that's really just about 10 seconds too late for DFM's liking.
If there had been no Mountain Soul, Cog was dead. Rhino was dead. And honestly, the fact that Codcog got to go Mega in stopwatch, absolutely huge. It's a game of inches, but those inches are given a little bit more leeway by the fact that V3's got a hold of the Mountain Soul. And now it's time for another neutral objective fight. V3 with Baron number 2. It's Elder Dragon time. DFM need to win this fight. They lose this, it gets really scary really quickly.
V3 buying time. They have themselves Calibrum and Hollow. I'm not sure the Gravitum is the weapon that they would really like. If you get yourself a Severum at this point, if DFM feel like they are forced to run into V3's team, I don't think they can kill the Aphelios. Ace just pushed up the mid lane.
He's going back.
DFM have not managed to get the Dragon very low. Ace is continuing pushing.
He's not there.
He can just continue to push because he doesn't.
They pinged him. They're going to think about going in. That's going to be the Destiny Gate in with the Paranoia. Ace now arriving. Utapon is in the backside, but Arya gets Hollow. He's done. He's dead.
Muujin.
The AD carry is going on, but look at Muujin. He gets a hold of Arya, but he goes back over the wall. Utapon is in danger. He tries to survive the shockwave, gets a hold of him. Muujin healing so much. Ace over the back end of his steel's gone golden. Goldrinker is just obscene. He's gone golden. Emmy's alive. Muujin, you can't keep getting away with it. He's alive.
Quadra kill for Ace Oriana. Clockwork winds up through the fight, finishes off the hard work of his teammates, and V3 send DFM to a 0-2 week.
That is just unfair. Muujin, take your hat off. Maybe you're only 4-2, but that fight, you survived through literally everybody.
What a terrible day to have eyes for DFM fans. Completely agree with Naka in chat with that one, whispering in our ears. DFM, we said they were going to have issues with that Mountain Soul. It allows the extra cooldowns to come in from every member of V3. V3 try and pull the smoke and mirrors that DFM have been so famous for so long. He has the teleport either way, but when you have a Paranoia, you don't get to pull that. It opens up the opportunity to get on top of Hollow, and there's a fight going, cutting away from the replay.
Great Everfrost stuns people in place. Arya gets the gold card and escapes the death sentence. The collapse won't matter this time. It looked so good for DFM for a moment there. They get Hollow. Ace wasn't there. But Muujin getting to go across the wall, back across the wall, Sterax, Mountain Soul, Goredrinker. I think got 2 Goredrinkers off in that fight. Along with the shield coming in from a pretty late game Oriana. Just so challenging to cut through. And we are back to the scene of the crime. The Elder Dragon didn't go down. Round 3, 4, something like that. Fight at these neutral objectives. It's time to kick it off one more time.
So actually TF manages to finally finish off the mid lane out of turret, but they've got to finish the dragon.
Right, they're going to try and get in, but it's going to be a little too late. Muujin's in, then goes Ebby into the backside, but it's too late. The Elder Dragon is dead. Arya will get a hold of Aphelios. The Aphelios is dead, but look at everybody else. Ace has already got 2. Muujin lands another Sonic Wave into the resonating strike, and there's just nothing you can do. Never fight the blind monk. You should have learned that one from anime a couple years ago. And instead, V3 will make the comeback a reality. They will shove in through mid and send DFM to a 0-2 start in summer.
Oh my gosh. The super team to end all super teams from this region. Possibly across all history, you could not find a more stacked roster comparative to their region. And they've started 0-2.
Absolutely unreal. Hats off to V3. They weathered the early storm. DFM are going to be head in hands. They had so much pressure in the early game. It just wasn't enough, and V3 undercut them one more time. However, we're not going to break the game down right now because we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we're back, we're going to have King Naka II himself to offer a little bit more analysis on this game. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. DFM start the summer 0-2. What a banger of a game. Maybe it was a little bit messy. Maybe there's going to be some frustrations from coaches on both ends of the spectrum there, actually, I expect. But from an enjoyment point of view, that was great. My voice is dying. I don't care. I had a great time. Naka, tell me about what was going early on, because both teams have very different game plans. DFM were all about getting that gold early on, getting those kills, whereas V3 were much more interested in securing some dragon stacking.
Yeah, I think kind of the way that these early games played out, this is kind of a different idea, different ideology about League of Legends, right? So DFM sacked the two objectives. What did they trade for it? They got first tower, they got the Nocturne, got all 5 plates on top side as well. Huge goal leads are coming through with about a 2K goal lead at 15 minutes, and so it's definitely starting to surmount. But the thing is that objectives, you're gonna have to find them eventually, and if your goal lead and your XP lead isn't actually big enough to like fight for those objectives, then it won't really work out. And so I think that's where DFM kind of faltered.
Yeah, and for the mid game, it looked like maybe that would be the case. They would have the golden XP lead. They were shoving outside lanes to collapse into the mid lane, get themselves some fantastic play there, even with a team comp that wasn't necessarily strictly a 5v5 comp in the traditional sense. They managed to, after the sole point dragon goes down, they get a couple kills after, they get a kill after that one. You saw how it was supposed to work out, and then Nymara, it starts to fall apart a little bit in the top side with a very back and forth plays as Arya gets dived.
I don't think it falls apart a little bit. I think the wheels come off at that point. DFM bluntly overestimate themselves. They don't finish the play well enough. There was a very awkward flash from Arya to try and, when he re-entered the fight, even trying to get a gold card onto the Aphelios, but that was the whole thing. Hollow on the Aphelios. You know, we've had a lot to praise this guy in Spring, but we kind of saw the peak of this player in Spring, and, you know, maybe we put him on a rung below Utapon, and of course Sol as well. But coming into this game, stayed alive on the Aphelios through hell and high water, did get dove a lot in that late game, but particularly in that fight, that one fight which broke up in the game, that Aphelios stayed alive, stacked the Conqueror, got the Severin running, and DFM just couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, and Mugen as well. He gets a Q onto Braum, flashes to get the double kill with the E.
Yes.
Picture perfect stuff.
Lee Sin looks very balanced.
Oh boy, we'll
Lee Sin
get
looks
onto
very
that
balanced, yeah.
in a moment or two. But before I allow my analysts to feel a bit horrified by what Lee Sin can do in extended team fights at the moment, let's talk about when V3 really turned the corner, which was the Soul fight. It came down to a 50-50 smite, but Mugen gets it. What kind of happens after that, Naka? Like, it felt like it was a bit doomed for DFM.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of V3 drafted was kind of a more of like a ball comp, right? You have Aphelios Thresh safe in lane, but if Aphelios gets to like sit down and just like pull out all of his damage, it's gonna be lights out for DFM. And so getting a Mountain Soul, especially against Rumble Equalizer, a lot of the Ezreal poke, all of it becomes really hard to actually chew through V3. And so getting those dragons and like doing that kind of stack we talked about before with V3, it made the game really hard for DFM.
Yeah, I mean, DFM only managed to secure one neutral objective that game, the first Rift Herald. Every single other neutral objective went the way of V3 Esports, and perhaps the most important one was the Elder Dragon. Absolute slobber knocker of a fight, because even down Soul, even down a very difficult team fight comp, that was a close fight that was inches away from going either way. And then Lee Sin.
Yeah, I mean, in both of DFM's games, they have shown their team fight excellency, partly because they've allowed the game to go on, like, to a point where, like, they have to show that to stay in the damn game. Like, make no mistake, these games should have been shut out about 10 to 15 minutes earlier by the team that actually won. And it's both a good and a bad thing. In some ways, for DFM, they should be glad that they're getting slapped and punished for their misreads and their overconfidence. But the fact that other teams can bring it to them is very important to our region, because it does show we're not a one-team region. But coming to these late game fights, they were outdrafted and outscaled, and even though they got it close, it really doesn't end up making the difference of a player the caliber of Mugen getting to go through 2 core drinker rotations with the Mountain Soul helping buffing him up, and then
Disgusting.
Ace on the Orianna. As much as we have criticized his laning in the past, that is not really a factor and was not a factor this game. And also his team fighting has been sublime.
Right, Naka?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Lee Sin is the only thing is blinding is the Riot Balance team for sure. I think is fair to say. Getting the Gorge Digger, all of the CDR, and just spying so much space for Ace again on the Orianna. I mean, well played by both those two. We talked about it.
2v4.
If Mugen pops off,
murders them all. It's disgusting.
we talked about it in the pregame. If Mugen gets going, V3 look nigh unstoppable.
They did. And with that, gonna cut us off. What a game from V3. What a game from Mugen. Gotta feel a bit sad for DFM. They
Oh
tried
no,
a
he's
couple
cutting us off.
different